Documents were in improper custody. Seems to me squarely within their oversight mission on the Intel Committee, and I want to commend both of them for pursuing this in a bipartisan way.
Military analysts are weighing in on the president's decision not to send high-tech jet fighters to Ukraine. AFN's Chad Groening has more.
On Monday, President Biden told reporters at the White House that the U.S. would not send F-16 fighters to the war-torn country. The no came just days after the Pentagon announced it would send 31 high-tech M1 Abrams tanks to Ukraine. Kyiv had been pushing for the Pentagon to approve the shipment of F-16s to defend Ukraine from Russian missile and drone attacks. Gordon Klingenschmidt is a former Air Force strategic missile officer. He thinks we need to place our own citizens first.
Our best and brightest technologies are going to be reserved for Americans. I think that's why the F-16s did not go overseas. We supply F-16s to our best allies like Israel, like Germany, Japan. They've flown F-16s for years. But Ukraine, they're not yet a member of NATO.
Retired Navy Commander Kirk Lippold commanded the USS Cole when it was attacked by terrorists in 2000. He believes it is in U.S. national interest to send the jets.
If we do not contain Russia, how's China viewing that? Ukraine must win. And by win means every Russian soldier out of every area of Ukraine, including Crimea. Get them the technology they need, get them trained as soon as possible, and give it to them so that we can defeat Russia.
I'm Chad Groening.
Stocks are up, closing out a strong January. Fox Business Network's Jerry Willis reports.
On the eve of a Federal Reserve meeting, stocks rose as investors discounted inflation worries. The Dow up 369 points, the S&P rising 58, the Nasdaq Composite up 190. For regular Americans, there were red lights as consumer confidence fell unexpectedly. Their worries, the jobs market and business conditions, according to the Conference Board. And home prices continued lower month to month, according to Case-Shiller, which reported prices fell 0.8% in November from October. Year over year, though, prices rose 6.8%. On the earnings front, GM reported a strong quarter as investors await the results of Meta tomorrow. In New York, Jerry Willis, Fox News.
Winter weather brought ice to a wide swath of the U.S. on Tuesday, causing the cancellations of more than 1,700 flights nationwide, bringing traffic to a standstill on an interstate through Arkansas and knocking out power to thousands in Texas. The National Weather Service said the ice storm will continue impacting a large area from the southern plains to the Tennessee Valley. Heavy rain and flash floods are possible across parts of the deep south and southeast by midweek. Unseasonably cold temperatures will continue for portions of the south, with another surge of Arctic air for the northern U.S. by late week. See more at afn.net. For American Family News, I'm Robert Thornton.
Target still refuses to change their policy that gives men who identify as women open access to women's restrooms and changing rooms. This keeps the doors open for predators to exploit this policy for evil, keeping women and girls at risk of becoming victims. We believe Target will stop the insanity if there's enough pressure. If you haven't signed the boycott pledge, will you sign it today at afa.net/Target? And don't forget to ask everyone you can think of to sign it and share. afa.net/Target.
Darkness is not an affirmative force. It simply reoccupies the space vacated by the light.
This is the Hamilton Corner on American Family Radio.
It should be uncomfortable for a believer to live as a hypocrite.
Delivering people out of the bondage of mainstream media and the philosophies of this world.
God has called you and me to be his ambassadors, even in this dark moment. Let's not miss our moment.
And now, the Hamilton Corner.
Welcome to the program. Alex McFarland here on this edition of the Hamilton Corner. So honored to be with you. If you recognize my name or my voice, it's probably from a show called Exploring the Word that's heard live Monday through Friday on the American Family Radio Network. And I've got the privilege of sitting in periodically when Abe Hamilton is out, and today is one of those days. And we're going to talk about a couple of things in the context of today's show, the first of which is the state of the family. And the number, if you would choose to participate in the conversation tonight, it's 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840, toll-free nationwide. Would love to have you call in. In just a moment, we're going to talk with a man named Eric Carroll of Dad Talk Today. But as we talk about our nation, over the weekend there was yet another shooting in California, and there was a public shooting in Middle America. And, I just was reading that a Nebraska Democrat is, they say it's kind of a joke, just to, I think, yank chains, but you just never know. A bill that would prevent young people from participating in, quote, religious indoctrination or religious indoctrination camps. Now, that would rule out things like Vacation Bible School, or whenever the left condemns what they view as, quote, religious indoctrination. We're talking about faith, moral boundaries, values, in other words, Christianity. Let me ask this question. I'm going to throw this out to you. Is Christianity under attack in America? Are we entering, or are we in a state of persecution? If you want to weigh in on that, the number is 888-589-8840. Now, I will tell you, I'm a believer. I'm a Christian believer, and I know not only the Word of God, but I know the trajectory of church history, and I have followed closely, because I've written on this and I teach on this, the stability, of the United States of America. And I agree with two sociologists, Bradford Wilcox and Mary Everstadt, who wrote that the future of the nation rises and falls with the state of Christianity, but the state of Christianity rises and falls with the condition of the family. Did you get that? The stability, the health of the country rises and falls with the health and the vibrancy of Christianity, but the state of Christianity rises and falls with the status of the family. That's why, if you care about this country, yes, you should care about the state of the gospel. That's why we do American Family Radio in all of its permutations, and the programming and the guests and everything we do. We want to see the truth of the gospel spread in our nation, right? But if you care about the country, you're going to care about the state of the family. And I had a friend, he went to be with the Lord about a year and 4 or 5 months ago. His name was Bill Glass. He was a great evangelist. He was a former NFL football player. Some of you will know the name Bill Glass. And Bill Glass, I brought him to Greensboro, North Carolina 20 years ago to do two things. One was a parenting conference, and then the other was a big youth rally, one of the first big events that I had the privilege of putting on. And by the way, speaking of events, we're going to be in Paris, Tennessee, April 21 through 23. That's one of our Truth for a New Generation National Apologetics Conferences, TNG. And I'll be there at Paris, Tennessee. That's not far from Nashville, actually not too far from Memphis, really. You want to check this out. Here's our theme. You're going to love it. Truth Matters, confronting the issues that will shape our future. Who's going to be there with me? I'll be in Paris, Tennessee, April 21 through 23. Bert Harper, Abe Hamilton III, Will and Mickey Addison, Love Worth Finding Ministries, a lot of great stuff. Go to the website truthforanewgeneration.com if you'd like to attend. But Bill Glass, when I did my first major conference 20 years ago, I brought Bill Glass to North Carolina. And here's what he said to an audience of 8,000 people. He came up to the mic and he said, crime is a father problem. Do you believe that? I believe it. He said, crime is a father problem. And, when I look at the violence, the shootings, just the instability, it's become almost dangerous to go out in public. I know it's the state of the family. It really is. And if we want to save our nation and spread the gospel, we need to become champions for family. That's why I'm so humbled and proud to be a part of the American Family Association. Well, I've got a caller on, David in Louisiana. David, welcome to the program. Thank you for holding.
Hey, I hope you can hear me okay, Alex. Good to talk to you.
Good evening. I can hear you. Welcome.
Good. I heard your question a while ago about do I think that Christianity is under attack in America?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh, is it ever? You know, anybody who knows anything about Christianity, all they have to do is wake up and turn on any kind of media today. I personally use the computer, and my gosh, every other word is an attack on Christianity, depending on how you look at it. And it's not just in America, it's worldwide. And you know that. The Christians are no longer Christian, half of them, when you look at the stuff that's going on in churches, and at least the Christian values. And my gosh, the shootings and everything. I was raised, we brought guns to school, and we compared them, we hunted and everything else. Nobody ever thought about shooting anybody. And
I know.
I don't know. It's crazy. It's really crazy.
Do you know what? Talking about that, you remember show and tell in school? Show and tell.
Absolutely.
My dad, who was a World War II vet and had gone down in a plane in Corpus Christi, Texas, training, and my dad, you know, it was just the sovereignty of God because there were 4 people in an airplane that crashed. One survivor, it was my dad, and of course, had my dad perished, I wouldn't be here myself. But he brought home a piece of aluminum from the wreckage of the plane he went down in, and later made like a hunting knife. I mean, this thing was like 14 inches long. It was a big knife, and my nephew that I helped raise has it now. But I remember I was in like 5th grade, this big old knife, I took it to show and tell in 5th grade.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I showed this big knife and brandishing this knife. Of course, a kid today that brought that on a school campus would be put in jail probably. But I didn't take it as a weapon, and of course I wouldn't have thought of using it threateningly. It was a show and tell thing that was a memento to my family. And listen, I remember, and of course I'm from the country, but, you know, most of the people at my high school that got a driver's license drove a pickup truck. And there were, at my high school in rural North Carolina, I graduated in 82, most of the pickup trucks in the high school parking lot had a gun rack in the back window and a gun on the back. But
that's correct. Same thing with me.
Every morning, though, we said the Pledge of Allegiance. And really up until about 7th or 8th grade, before we went down to the cafeteria to lunch, the teacher called on somebody to say the blessing at a public junior high school. And we didn't have any violence. I think the worst problem our school had was chewing gum on the underside of the desks, you know. But it was a different time. David, thank you. We need to turn back to God, and I've got another thought on that. We've got a guest I'm going to bring up in just a minute, but I wanted to get to Rebecca. Rebecca in Mississippi, welcome to the Hamilton Corner. Thank you for holding.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to let you know it. As a teacher, I go into other classrooms, and a few weeks back, I went in the classroom, and the science text, I just glanced down, and it said the solar system was formed by dust particles that had built up over a period of time, and it made the solar system. And it caught me back, and I just took me back, and I looked, and there was nothing else explained. That was the explanation. And to be honest, I was a coward, and I just looked at it, and I said, visualize your paycheck, and I walked out. And I just thought, don't do this. Don't do this. But as God normally does, he brings it back into my face. And so a few days later, the teacher brings some children to me and to take this test. And she says that you can just read this little passage, and the question 1 will go with over here of this paragraph 1. Question 2, they'll find the answer in paragraph 2. Get that. So they're sitting there taking it, and number 3, the little boy says, I'm having trouble with number 3. And the question was, how was the solar system formed? And over there, he's supposed to put the correct answer was to be the dust particles built up over a period of time.
Right.
And I just couldn't, it was in my face. And I knew that little child's parent, and I knew that she was Christian, and I knew better. And I said, So I told him, I said, what do you think? And he said, I think God. Well, the Gideons had left a Bible there. And I just picked up the Bible, and I said, your mom gets this from right here, this first chapter. That's where she gets this. This is a theory from a scientist. It's probably very bright and studied a long time, but it's a theory, and there are other theories. Okay, that's where your mom gets her theory. There are other theories. And I'm not going to say where I am because I need to keep my job, but I went over to the classroom because it's a very young teacher. At first I told her, she came in there, she said, just let him put right there. Just let him put whatever's there. I said, no. If his mother realized this, she would be upset. I said, he can put according to the text, blah, 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 blah. And then he can say, but I believe, and he can put what he believes. So I went back over across and I shared that with the class. I said, this question, so-and-so, you guys, you've been learning in English that you're to state, according to the text, whatever. You can put that. But this is a theory along with other theories. And some of you have other theories. Some of your parents have other theories about how the solar system was formed.
Now, did you get called into the office for...
Oh, yes.
Oh, my word. What happened?
And that's really what I've been wanting to call. I want some literature about court cases or something like this, if y'all can help me out at all. But I was called in, and I was told that I pushed my beliefs. In fact, I asked 2 teachers to stand there. I said, I want you guys to stand here so you can hear what I say and make sure that I'm not trying to push my beliefs on anyone else. This is kind of a touchy subject, but it must be addressed. We cannot teach kids this as it's a fact because that's never been proven.
Right.
So they did, but there was someone else in the room, and that went and told the principal, and so I get called in. Well, we had a discussion and with the principal and assistant principal, and then I was told to come back, and then I had to come back for a meeting yesterday, and I was presented with 2 policies from she had gone to HR, 2 policies stating what this district, their policies were on promoting religion. And that because I had that Bible in my hand, I went in the classroom, I didn't even open the Bible, didn't read anything, I just had it in my hand. And she said that was promoting. And if it happened again, I'm probably going to be my job, is what she was saying. And I said, well, we have an obligation
Rebecca,
to the
listen,
children.
Forgive me. In the interest of time, I've got to interject something. I want you to hold on because I want to do 2 things. I want to give you some information. One is my friend, David Gibbs III, the National Center for Life and Liberty. David Gibbs III, he's an attorney. You have rights. And let me say, to say that the universe had a cause is absolutely scientific. It is not religious. You're very courageous. Let us get your contact info. We want to try to help you. And listeners, I encourage you to pray for Rebecca. She's being persecuted for telling kids truth, not the narrative. We did not come from space dust. The universe had a cause. That's called the law of causality. It's absolutely scientific, not religious. Rebecca, let us have your contact info. Stay tuned. We're going to come back. We're going to talk with Eric Carroll of the Dad Talk today. So much going on the Hamilton Corner. Stay with us. We're back after this.
A very important issue is for we, the church, to do our part to end the tragedy of legalized abortion in this world and in this nation. Why? Because it's clearly against the word and the will of God.
Pastor Joseph Parker.
God has already told us in His Word, you shall not murder. So we don't have to wonder about, well, is it God's will in this case for this person to have an abortion? It's never the will of God for someone to have an abortion because an abortion is murder. Now, God will forgive that sin. The Bible lets us know if we confess our sins, He is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. So for persons that have gone down that road or maybe who helped or assisted or paid for an abortion, yes, there's forgiveness. We serve a merciful and a loving Heavenly Father.
Joseph is the author of the book, A Pastor's Notes. God Calls the Church to Stand Boldly for Life. It's available at resources.afa.net.
If you came home and found your mate passionately hugging someone you didn't know, how would you feel? Of course, you'd be shocked, angry, rejected. That experience would just be a small picture of the way God feels about our sin. In the Bible, when God wants to show us how serious sin really is, He often uses the picture of marital unfaithfulness. Here's an example from Jeremiah 3. You have played the whore with many lovers, declares the Lord. You have polluted the land with your vile whoredom, yet you refuse to be ashamed. When we expect to stay close to God, yet refuse to give up our sin, it's like a mate caught in adultery acting like it's no big deal. It would be as if they wanted to stay married, yet continue the illicit relationship. When you're tempted to sin today, remember that you're in a relationship with a heavenly bridegroom. Let's be faithful to Him. With Seeking Him, I'm Nancy DeMoss Wagamuth.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
The credit card debt happened when my daughter was born. I was using one credit card account to roll over into another credit card account, and it was snowballing.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-788-1813.
When I first called Trinity, the representative understood the need based on the situation. They were great people to work with. From the first phone call that I made, they had me on a track to mitigate the credit card debt.
Trinity will consolidate your accounts into one easy-to-manage monthly payment, reduce your interest, and possibly improve your credit score. You'll save thousands.
Working with Trinity gave me the ability to save thousands of dollars. My name's Doug, and thanks to Trinity, I'm debt-free for keeps.
Call Trinity at 1-800-788-1813. That's 1-800-788-1813.
Shining light into the darkness, this is the Hamilton Corner on American Family Radio.
Welcome back to the program. You know, the teacher that we were just speaking with before the break who, courageously allowed a child to express their belief that God created the universe. And it sounds like, she's really fighting for her professional career. And I want you to please pray for that lady. We are going to try to get her some counsel on maybe some legal advice. But we're talking about the faith being under attack, morals being under attack, but really it boils down to the family being under attack. And I've got a guest on that I want you to meet, Eric Carroll. He's the founder of Dad Talk Today, and this is pretty exciting stuff because, as I said earlier, not only ministers but sociologists agree that the state of the nation is contingent on the state of the Christian presence, but Christianity in America is contingent in such large measure on the state of the family. Eric Carroll is the founder of Dad Talk Today, and they talk about the challenges men and fathers are facing, and really family is so important to our country. Eric, thanks for holding. Welcome to the American Family Radio Network.
Hey, Alex, I appreciate it.
Hey, man, it's good to have you on. Before we go too much farther, I want you to give your website. What is your website, Eric?
DadTalkToday.com. We're predominantly on social media, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and we do the show 7 days a week, 10 a.m. Eastern, and it's been doing really well.
Yeah, well, you've done a ton of really great, really creative interviews with people of all strata. And, hey, you've got – how many followers on social media? How many podcast listeners do you have now, Eric?
If you combine all the social media together, around 750,000, close to 750,000.
Congratulations, brother. You're what they call an influencer, aren't you?
I guess so. I hope so.
Yeah. So who are some of the folks that you've interviewed?
Oh, Dr. Ben Carson, Jim Jordan, Kim Klasick, Ted Nugent.
Oh, wow.
Richard Fortas at Guns N' Roses, you name it, man. It's been a little bit all over. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Dr. Robert Malone, Peter McCullough, Jim Brewer, Tito Ortiz, Dan Severn. I could go on and on, man. It's been very surprising to see the amount of people that are speaking up on these issues.
You mentioned Ted Nugent, rock and roll guitar player who came out some years ago as a conservative, very concerned about the country, willing to speak out, even at the cost of part of his musical career. I saw an actor, Rob Schneider. Are you familiar with kind of a shorter guy, but he's been in a lot of films, Rob Schneider. He came out saying that he's left Hollywood. He will not let his kids watch a lot of what comes out of Hollywood. And he basically, and I don't completely know where he is spiritually, but he says, look, if we don't have God and morality, we're going to lose our country. And I watched an interview where he said, hey, I might be committing professional suicide, but we've got to save America, and it's going to take God and family to do that. That was Rob Schneider. Eric, do you find more and more people are just having to state the obvious? Without dads, without families, without morals, without God, we're going to lose our country?
I do, and I think it's becoming much more of an issue as, the time goes by, especially with the mass shooters and the fatherless statistics, the way it is. I guess, one of the biggest things I'm trying to do with Dad Talk is we hear about the statistics and the consequences of not having the father in the home, but what is creating that fatherless epidemic is what we're not hearing as much about, and that's what we're trying to promote.
And what is creating the fatherlessness and the epidemic of violence and negative trends? What's creating that?
Well, it's not all of it, but I can tell you this. The incentives that we've put in marriage and divorces inside of our politics is just crazy. We see the black family where I've heard it as low as 70% and as high as 80% of the homes are without a dad in the home. When you go back to Section 8, and now they said, look, we'll give you government housing, we'll give you insurance, we'll give you food stamps, but you can't have a father in the home. Look at what that's done to the black family unit, which used to be one of the strongest family units in the world. And then also Title 4D of the Social Security Act. The states make a percentage off of every dollar that's paid inside of child support. When you see that our legislators, which is predominantly made up of attorneys, see that the $60 billion a year industry known as family court is going on, and they never talk about the consequences from it, it makes you wonder how many people actually know what is going on. Divorce is actually at the lowest it's been in a long time, and people have been celebrating that. Well, so is marriage. Single parents is on the rise. The nuclear family is on attack like it never has been before. And we need to be getting some incentives in there to create strong, happy, healthy families. But it seems like all the incentives is in destructing that nuclear family.
Exactly. I think so many people would not have dreamed that really family court is a business. And, whether it be, family court, the divorce industry, mediation, and then even, of course, this is another subject, but the abortion industry. But people are making money off of things that are really leading us to cultural suicide.
Oh, definitely. I mean, there's more legislation, like Marco Rubio is trying to get out of Florida, called the Unborn Child Support Act. They want fathers to pay child support upon conception. And some of those bills, though, they got this one thing that says you don't have to do a paternity test. Do you know 1 out of 3 fathers that have a paternity test in the United States of America find out that they were not the father of the child to begin with? This is basically saying that you can pick the father. And if we go back 9 months of paying child support upon conception before that paternity test, the one person that wins in every one of these cases is the courts and the legislation, because they get their incentive money. They, like I said, they know that this is going on. And I think a lot of times these are hidden as good bills to protect the families, and they do everything but. Ronald Reagan was the one that said it. The scariest thing I've ever heard is, hey, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. Yeah, that hasn't happened with our families. We're seeing them break apart every day. You got the case, my good friend Jeff Younger out of Texas. They're trying to transition his child and have been trying to do it since he was 6 years old. He's 9 now. Jeff Younger has spent $2 million inside a family court trying to protect the transition of his 9-year-old son. They're wanting to chop his you-know-what off.
Oh, yeah.
And the Supreme Court they're protecting it. And I'm going to tell you, there was a lot of politicians and churches that stood by and didn't back Jeff. And I'm pretty ticked off about it, because you just opened up Pandora's box. That's the new thing that's about to start going through there, because those child transitionings, the custody evaluators and psychologists and everything that's involved, it's big business, very big business.
got a caller in Ohio, Patrick in Ohio. I want to give you time. And I know we've got. Hey, Patrick, turn your radio down if you would. Patrick, you're going to have to turn your radio down, Patrick.
Yes. Yes.
Are you there?
Yes. I didn't think I was going to get
good.
on tonight. I apologize for that. So I thought, well, maybe I'll just listen. But anyways, first of all, holy cow, I don't know where to start now. First of all, I've been listening to you for many, many, many years, and I've got to say this. I've been wanting to tell you this for years. You are have one of the most compassionate voices I have ever heard from a man in my life. You're totally awesome. Great show.
Well,
I'm not just saying that to patronize you. It's the truth. I think that every time I hear you.
To God be the glory.
We were talking about, gosh, this gentleman. I apologize. I forgot the guy's name that you're interviewing, but he is
Eric Carroll.
spot on correct. He is
yes.
Yes. He is spot on correct in what he's saying about family courts. A year ago, I recently went through something. I'm not going to get into it too far because I didn't intend on speaking to that today. But he is spot on correct. Family courts, it's big business. They're destroying families. And it really seems like that is their intentions. But let's get away from that for a minute. What I originally wanted to speak to was, you mentioned the first gentleman that came on was talking about how when we were younger, okay, we took weapons to school. We used to go hunting, fishing, all that stuff, and we would take guns to school for show and tell. I did that. I had friends that did that. This has been the reason for all of this changing has been this huge debate, and I've read the statistics on it. I really honestly believe it's a mindset. The mindset has changed with adults. It's changed with children. The violent video games, the violent TV programs that come out of Hollywood. We can go on and on and on about it. Has really changed the mindset of people to just be violent human beings.
I know. Eric, hang on, Patrick. You're so kind, Patrick. Hang on. Eric, I want to ask you something. In all of the people that you interview, on all sides of the issue, do any of the people talk about how we must have morals? I mean, like, part of the reason in my generation, you could take a gun to show and tell. I mean, literally. I mean, we had days when we emphasized hunting. You could take a gun because we had morals, and nobody in their right mind would ever have used it to harm somebody. Does anybody talk about the loss of morals that's been a result from the loss of family?
I think that's kind of at the top of the conversation. I mean, that's one of the things. That's the reason why masculinity was attacked. Usually, who's the one that teaches the son how to hunt? Who's the one that teaches him how to shoot the gun? Most of the time, going to be a dad. Everything that surrounds masculinity has been deemed toxic. And we got 1 out of 4 children in the United States, and talking about 4 out of 5 in the black community growing up without a father in the home. It's not a problem with toxic masculinity. It's a problem with a lack of masculinity. I mean, I grew up in the country too. These kids brought their shotguns to school. Hunting was just one of those things. But if you look at these mass shooters, if you look at the problems with violence, what is the biggest common denominator between every single one of them? They came
Never
from
a father in their
home.
life.
They didn't have a father in their life. And when the politicians get up and talk about this, yet they know what's going on inside of the family courts, I just have to question the sincereness of them when they allow that circus to operate.
Yeah. Now, you, with Dad Talk today, you encourage and educate parents as to what's going on. And how's the response been when people hear your content and hear your guest? I mean, what's been the response, Eric?
It's great. I'd say, even though I'm Dad Talk, I probably have predominantly a women's audience. It's moms and stepmoms that have seen these dads and their grandsons and what they're going through. Every once in a while, we'll get the people that, hit back at us. Well, there's dads that don't need to be in their kids' life. Well, yeah, there's moms like that too. But it hurts my heart when I talk to these fathers, and that's the first thing they bring up is the deadbeat dad. Is that you? Do you love your kids? Look, there's a lot of these guys out here that are fighting tooth and nail. It didn't become a $60 billion a year industry because the dads aren't fighting. Why aren't they getting time with their kids? And I think there are so many men that are lost. They've been broken. They've been beaten down. They're sitting in that house lonely where their family used to be and feeling like they've been treated as a paycheck, and they're tired of it. So we're seeing numbers like we've never seen before. I mean, I just had a new social media site I started 2 weeks ago. It's already up to 30,000 followers. We had 10,000 followers on this show before I even did my first podcast. If that tells you how out of control this is. And it's not just a United States thing. I have people from Australia, Canada, UK, Switzerland, Japan. I've had callers calling from all across the world because a lot of these countries have modeled their family court laws after the United States. Masculinity 100% was a target, and we're seeing the consequences of it right now.
I want to get a caller on with a question. This is Clayton in Texas. Clayton, thanks for holding. You're on with Alex McFarland and our very special guest, Dad Talk Today founder Eric Carroll. Clayton, welcome. Hey, Clayton? Clayton, are you there? Okay, we're going to go to Mandy in Texas. Mandy, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Talk to us.
Hi. Everything that you're talking about is so relevant to my daily life because I'm an educator, I'm a single mom, and I also am an evangelist with an evangelism ministry. And I have children who I teach in a dual language program that are 7 and 8 years old, and there are 3 boys in my class that none of them have dads, and they all are in so much pain every day, and they do all kinds of outlandish things. One of them came up to me and drew a gun and held it to my head one day at 7 years old while I was talking to the class. Another one said he had guns at home and he's going to shoot up the class. And every day I'm trying to give them motherly love, but I know that I cannot be a dad. Moms are moms, dads are dads. And they need dads. And I've called around to local churches to try to get them to help our ministry, to mentor these boys. And nobody is willing to step up to the task. But if people can't just step up and reach these little boys at this young age, they're going to turn into the dads or the men that we're talking about, you know?
Mandy, first of all, thank you for your ministry in these young lives. Eric, when you hear something like this, what's your response, Eric?
Oh, lots of things like, why isn't the dad at home? It's easy to think that he's not there just because like he doesn't want to be. But some of these guys get blocked, and like the state of Texas is one of the worst. I've been to that state probably more than any in the country, and I live in the state of Georgia, where the transition is going down with Jeff Younger that I was talking about is going on in the state of Texas. The national average of dads fighting that end up without custody of their kids is around 82.5%. And the state of Texas, we're at around 94%.
Oh, my word. Hey, Eric, forgive me. We got a break. Eric, give me your website again, Eric. Dad Talk Today. What's the website?
DadTalkToday.com.
DadTalkToday.com. Eric, you're doing a great work. I know we've been short on time today. Hey, let's you and I visit again. May we do that. In the meantime, stand strong and may God bless you. Folks, I encourage you to check out his content, dadtalktoday.com. Talking about the family, talking about human life, talking about morals, talking about God. Stay tuned. We're going to come back and continue. Alex McFarland on AFR. Don't go away.
When you hear this...
This is American Family News.
You know what follows is the truth. Your news from a Christian perspective.
Hundreds of teachers are going to have to walk into that school building, and they are forced to swallow political ideology that in many cases violates their very faith and conscience.
If you miss it at the top of the hour, American Family News podcasts are available at afn.net. And sign up for our daily news brief at afn.net.
This week on Truth for Life, join Alistair Begg as he turns to the pages of Scripture to answer long-standing debates about baptism. You'll also learn how to witness by the way you worship and discover what effective church leadership looks like. Listen to Truth for Life with Alistair Begg.
Truth for Life, weekday mornings at 11:30 Central on AFR and online at afr.net.
Making abortion unthinkable. This is David Wheaton, host of The Christian Worldview.
Roe v. Wade may have been overturned, but the abortion movement has redoubled their efforts to expand it through state legislatures. While political and legal battles are necessary, persuading hearts and minds that abortion should be unthinkable, similar to the way many view smoking, is even more effective. Start with the truth of Psalm 139. For you formed my inward parts. You wove me in my mother's womb. For I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Declaring that it's always wrong to intentionally murder a human being before or after birth. Hear our most recent program on what Christians can do in the face of an increasingly radical abortion movement at thechristianworldview.org, and then tune in this weekend as we discuss the popular series, The Chosen.
Listen to The Christian Worldview with David Wheaton, Saturday mornings at 8 Central on American Family Radio.
Hello, Americans. I'm Todd Starn. Stand by for news and commentary next.
Take advantage of the warmer weather and come explore Liberty University's campus, ranked number 4 best college campus in America by Niche.com. Join us for Experience LU, an all-day event that shows off our dorm rooms, classrooms, and award-winning dining hall. Or, if you're short on time, attend a 4-hour student-led campus tour to hit the highlights. To learn more or schedule your visit to Liberty University, text Visit LU to 49596. Again, that's Visit LU to 49596.
More than 42,000 illegal aliens have been transferred from border towns to the Big Apple. Mayor Eric Adams is furious, saying his city cannot handle the influx, and now the illegals are pitching a fit about their accommodations. Dozens of single young men were booted from a high-dollar hotel near Central Park to make room for illegal alien families. The city decided to move all the single men to a barracks at the Brooklyn Cruise Terminal, but the illegals don't want to go. They say the cruise terminal is subpar, not up to their standards. At the hotel, the single men receive food, haircuts, transportation, and free laundry service, courtesy of the American taxpayers. It should be noted that we are also picking up the tab for their lodging. But that's just not good enough. Most Americans will never be able to afford a trip to New York City, much less stay in a luxury hotel. Oh, the lifestyles of the rich and illegal. I'm Todd Starnes.
The Hamilton Quarter podcast and one-minute commentaries are available at afr.net. Back to the Hamilton Quarter on American Family Radio.
Oh, so much vital stuff to talk about, folks. And I want to say, I know we've had some callers. We've had many callers in the queue. I've got the privilege of being on again tomorrow night on the Hamilton Corner. And also, we're going to pre-record a Friday show. So several opportunities this week to continue these wonderful, rich conversations. Right now, we've got Andi Buerger, Voices Against Trafficking. And let me cue this up before we bring Andi on. See, look, folks, a big part of why our nation is where it is, and sadly, the violence, the lawlessness is creeping around the globe, but it starts with the state of Christianity, religious freedom, the ability to talk about God and our accountability to God, it's our absence of moral boundaries, but so much of this, as I quoted earlier in the show, it's due to the state of the family. For now 50-plus years, as we've had no-fault divorce, we've had walk-away marriages, and you know who has been caught in the crossfire of our loss of moral boundaries? Children. Children that so often aren't raised by both mom and dad. Children that really don't know the sanctity and the security of a home. And we're to the point where human life has just become cheap. As God, family, commitment, marriage, morality has become cheap, things we just walk away from. What's ultimately been lost is our value of human life. Andi Buerger with Voices Against Trafficking has been just this champion for truth, the sacredness of human life, and it's always an honor to speak with Andi Buerger. So thank you for holding, Andi, and really, more importantly, thank you for what you're doing for truth and for life. I applaud you.
Well, thank you, Alex. It's definitely all God, and I appreciate that.
Before we get into deep conversation, I want you to give your website and tell us what is the mission of Voices Against Trafficking?
Sure, voicesagainsttrafficking.com. On there, people will find helplines, hotlines. Our goal, we are a network of networkers, so we want to create greater public awareness of human trafficking, sexual exploitation, the things that we can do to prevent it, the things that are not working well, and as you mentioned, protecting the family unit, protecting children. So our goal is to get as much out there, to get as many tools to the general population as possible so that there is more action, inspired action, and not just putting our heads in the sand saying, oh, it doesn't exist. So that's what our goal is nationally and internationally. And we have a variety of things that we do to make that effective. And we do also engage in some live actual rescues depending on the case.
I've got to ask you this because I know you and I, we share a commitment for truth and really for the welfare of young people. Did you see the story over the weekend about the LSU student, Louisiana State University student Madison Weeks, who was at a bar 4 times the legal limit for alcohol, consumption, and was apparently sexually violated, and then intoxicated, got hit by a car and died. Did you happen to see that?
No, that is one that I did miss. I'm so sorry about that whole situation, though. What you just described is tragic.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Madison Brooks was the student's name. And, I don't know all the details, but it was a tragedy on so many levels. Just, blackout drunk, sexual violation. There are 4 young men accused of having, committed the sexual, assault. And then after drinking, apparently staggered in front of an oncoming car, was hit by a car and died. One of the reasons this kind of hits home is we did 2 events about 7 years ago. We did an event at Louisiana State, a Christian event at LSU, and then we did another big conference in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. But the thing is with young people, whether it be abduction and human trafficking or whether it be sexual assault or just, living for, the party lifestyle, we've missed the very point of human life, which is to know God, to build a family, to live a life and leave a legacy that counts for truth and something beneficial. I mean, we've deeply lost our way, haven't we?
I agree with that, absolutely, and especially when, we used to see children as the future of America, as the future of our communities, the future teachers, doctors, whoever, social workers, and now they're chattel or they're non-human objects to be used for profit, for agendas, for anything that comes along their way. And 88% of human trafficking and child sexual exploitation victims originate via the Internet. I think the Internet, while it might have been a good idea, has, like anything else, been corrupted. Predators contact 1 in 5 kids over social media, and you've heard probably some of the national stories. Yes, so 20% of every kid. And so here's what's that is very tragic about that young person, because I just wonder what caused her to go and get that drunk and that numb, and then to have to experience easy target, right? For somebody to do wrong, human poacher, like those 4 boys you mentioned. And then, on top of it, she ends up just ruined and then gets hit by a car. That's just horrific. But by age...
Well, hey, let me do something.
14,
We've got a caller.
Oh, go ahead.
I want to bring a caller to the table, Mark in Texas.
Sure.
Mark, welcome to the program, and our very special guest, Andi Buerger.
Well, thank you, Dr. McFarland. I just wanted to say that what Eric was saying, was it Eric that was talking to guests before me? And I don't want to mention statistics. I just want to mention my personal experience, because I discovered my personal experience actually is very true for many, at least here in Texas. When I left New Jersey because my ex-wife kidnapped my boys from New Jersey to Texas, I could not believe that when I fought for custody and my story was covered by the media, hundreds of people have called after they saw my number in that news report covered by KBTX, a CBS affiliate. And people were flocking to me, calling me, writing me. And I could not believe that this problem is so huge. And here I am, not even an American. I'm from the Philippines, having to deal with calls from people about an American problem. And so I wanted to help as much as I can, but I was helpless myself. And so in my readings, I discovered how fatherlessness in the United States actually is one of the biggest problems this society is facing. And so when I hear of these misbehaving children dropping out of high school, committing crimes, teenage pregnancy, I discovered that the root cause in a huge way is fatherlessness.
Yes, yeah. And Mark, may God bless you in your situation. Andi, fatherlessness and custody battles where very often the father isn't allowed into the life of the young person. Look, I know from 30 years of youth ministry, promiscuity, drug use, partying, at-risk behavior, online, getting connected with predators online, so much of this could have been prevented if the father, and better yet, both parents, had been in the lives of young people. This is true, isn't it, Andi?
I do believe that. I believe that role models are so critical. And if you take the mother or the father out of the home, unless there's a situation of abuse or criminal, that we're going to set that one aside. But in general, yes, the kids do need to have role models. How does a young girl learn what kind of man to marry if there's no father? How does a young boy know what kind of young man to become if there's no father? And you can reverse that. What kind of a woman should a young man marry if he doesn't have a role model and a mother, that kind of thing. And it used to not be such a struggle, but our kids are under attack, our families are under attack, parents are under attack. And, by the age of 14 right now, Alex, teenagers are five times more likely to commit suicide, whether they're faith-based or not. That's just across the board.
Oh, I know. And, there's like a sense of hopelessness. I've got a question on trafficking from Mary, but listen to this, Andi. This will give you some encouragement. I just did a youth winter retreat in front of 183 teens about 2 weeks ago, and several of the students have tracked me down on my speaking tour and come to hear me preach. And this high school senior said to me just Sunday, Mr. McFarland, everybody loved hearing you. I said, really? Middle schoolers, high schoolers? Why would you like to hear a 58-year-old speaker like me? He said, well, because you tell us stuff. He said, we just felt like you tell us truth. I said, well, I do. So kids respond. Mary, welcome to the program. Our special guest, Andi Buerger at Voices Against Trafficking. Did you have a comment on trafficking, Mary?
Yes, I live in the state of Texas. Like every week there's an Amber Alert. The worst cities are Houston, San Antonio. Dallas has entered the category now, too. And a couple years back, a church I know in Greenville, one of the ladies were entering the back of it for choir practice, I believe, and she had her hand on the doorknob, and someone grabbed her from behind, a guy, and she hung to that doorknob and was able to get inside, and it self-locked. And then another lady in that church with a friend was walking down the sidewalk in town, and I don't know what kind of person ran up and grabbed one of the toddlers. They were able to chase him and get him. But, our societies allow this, and I'm talking about bigwigs, leadership people. What was it, a year or so ago, a general in Florida, they were caught, with trafficking. But this whole problem of fatherlessness came out of the welfare system.
Yeah.
When a woman, my relative, they set down a security guard at a bank, and a woman on welfare gets more money by food stamps, housing, medical coupons, and an AFCD check than
Mary, in the interest of time, I want to get Andi to respond. I'm sorry to interject here, but Andi, haven't we politically over the decades incentivized the breakdown of the family, and thus we have the human life with no value and human trafficking so rampant?
Absolutely. And even though there are things that vary state by state, I mean, even the corporations are getting into the mess kit, as I say. Like corporate pedophilia is kind of a metaphor that describes like the selling of products to children before they're even able to understand advertising. But yet the parents, participate in the buying of things. There's all kinds of agendas, whether it's money fueled or not. But yes, the breakdown of the family, all of the things that go against the solid values that we used to have as a country, that we used to promote, all of that has come and put us in this place. And while there are leaders responsible for some things, at the end of the day, Alex, each one of us has to stand up and say, you know what, this is not how God designed us. This is not, we can be better than this. We can do better for our kids. But it takes commitment. And you're right. If there's a woman on welfare, she does get more. There's not a lot of incentive for men if they're not motivated to be in the family. I had one case where every child in the situation, 5 of them, had a different baby daddy. And the mother was trying to get her act together. But at the end of the day, welfare and being able to smoke marijuana was more important to her.
Oh, my goodness, yeah. And you know what, just like in the Roman Empire, I mean, the ray of hope and the foundation of stable ground is going to be the church and come from within the church. I mean, look, this has happened before. The people of God that were the champions of truth and champions of family, they changed a culture. It can happen again here, can't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look how far we've gone downhill just in a couple of years.
Yeah. Well, give us your website, Andi.
Absolutely. VoicesAgainstTrafficking.com. Helplines, hotlines, information. Our brand new magazine, Voices of Courage, just came out online yesterday. It's highlighting people who are doing good things, people who are trying to bring those values back, and what to look for. Lots of things in there too. So we're hoping that we're helping people get a better understanding.
Andi, thank you so much. Hey, this has been Alex McFarland. Honored to sit in. Folks, my website is alexmcfarland.com. See you tomorrow. God bless.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American